Hello and welcome to Checkpoint on Campus. I am your host, Jacob Brothers, and joined with me is Garrett O'Toole and a very special guest. We have Emanuel Lovejoy, the head coach of the Cloud9 Halo team. Emanuel, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys doing?
Loving life. Excited to talk about Halo, right, Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, Halo, it's the most anticipated game of 2021. I couldn't think of a better guest to have on today, especially because, Halo, it's been a game that has its highs and its lows. And it finally feels like we're coming to one of the highest highs Halo could possibly have. But now there's this whole new ecosystem of collegiate esports. And I wanted to get Hoaxer's thoughts on what exactly collegiate esports means for Halo. What kind of benefits do you think Halo could have if we went to, a collegiate esports system?
Yeah, I think in terms of like benefits, I mean, obviously there's a whole new like demographic of players, like concentrated players, young players that can actually see a path to possibly, having aspirations of pro or just being a part of something team based in a setting that, they're already, going into a college setting and having more of a camaraderie in that regard. And just, circulating that, that population of Halo players that are like super interested and passionate with Halo and esports. And that's something that we really haven't seen in our scene like at all. So that's something that's like super exciting. And with the general excitement with Halo Infinite, I think it's it's very realistic for us to see that kind of I guess a assembly of players in the collegiate side of things. So it's exciting. I'm not really sure on how big things can be, but we know that things are going to be big. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
think you're the best person to talk to right now because Cloud9 kind of re-entered at a very interesting time, kind of like in Rona, as we're starting to kind of progress out of it.
Mhm.
So I know the main thing I know about Halo is that grassroots was such a big part of Halo. Grassroots is how that game really grew. So my first part of my question is, how is the climate of Halo now? Because we weren't really able to do that grassroots for a long time. Do you think that the environment has survived and flourished? And do you think that grassroots nature will benefit college?
I think that grassroots, the grassroots side of Halo will help in terms of when you look at it from like a tournament organizing perspective. There's a lot of TOs that are just passionate about Halo, and they have kind of laid down some groundwork on how tournaments can be ran, and that's one part of what helps grassroots and collegiate is who's tested the actual side of running tournaments for Halo, because not everyone can just get in there and just run a tournament. It's not that simple. But in regards to the Halo scene currently, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. I mean, we're all playing Halo. We're not necessarily playing the same Halo. There's a lot of traffic still with Halo 5. But you have a lot of people still playing, Master Chief Collection, Halo 3, Halo 2, and whatnot. So which is cool in my eyes. The other day when I was streaming, somebody asked me like, what were my thoughts on this particular situation, in Halo. And it's just like me, it's there's a lot of people that are watching the game, but they're not playing anything. And that's perfectly okay. It's like everybody has this similar notion of they're just eyes on Halo Infinite. So whether you're playing the game right now or not, it's it's all good. It's everyone is on that same wavelength of looking forward to the future. And in regards to the whole grassroots nature of things, as long as people have that interest involved, and being involved with Halo Esports, whether it's spectating, that's a good sign for things like the collegiate side of things.
Yeah.
Not really sure where I was going with that, but it's just the whole people caring about
Right.
the scene.
Yeah, and so on that, because obviously I'm sure once Halo Infinite comes out, there's going to be a bunch of like tournaments that are thrown locally in colleges and from just big organizers. But do you think that Microsoft should maybe be a little aggressive with pushing that? Because I know we've seen like Rocket League, we've seen League of Legends have a direct hand in these tournaments and the direct running and organizing. And I mean, we might have to wait a little bit for Infinite to pick up speed. But do you think that Microsoft should take that initiative coming up?
Man, that's a good question. I'm not too sure, because would that necessarily be the grassroots philosophy of things, right? Like I think the better thing for Microsoft to do is to wait to see who's passionate in terms of leaders that are going to spearhead initiatives for collegiate Halo Esports, and maybe they complement them and boost those entities or those groups, those organizations, and whether they throw personnel or they just let them do their thing, and then once they get to a certain point where they've perhaps proven that they can do things orderly, and the community is picking up what those collegiate-esque tournament organizers are putting down and whatnot, then I could see them kind of doing their own thing. I mean, it wouldn't be something that I would be against if they had spearheaded their own initiatives and whatnot, but that's kind of like where I see it, just because we're in uncharted territory on the Halo side of things. So I guess it'd be like maybe not. I think it's just better if the community kind of rallies around its own self and proves that we have the passion, and not only the passion but the actual effort put into it.
Yeah, right. And I actually like that a lot, because Halo already has an ecosystem built for grassroots available to it, right? So I don't necessarily think that Microsoft needs to get into it, because 343 Industries has a grassroots program where if college leagues wanted to get involved, they could apply for partnership through there and then get help directly from the developer and be able to still have this grassroots feeling to it that really started collegiate esports.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I didn't even think about the whole the grassroots side of things in that regard. But I mean, the biggest thing for them is making, having a game that works, and and maybe them showing, good ways on how to, operate the game on, whether it's LAN or online or, tournaments, structures and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So.
Yeah, speaking of going into a unique direction, Halo Infinite's going to be very different from what Halo 5 was, and even more different from what Halo 4 was, and so on. And so I feel like a lot of colleges are going to try to get their Halo teams going. They're going to try to get that ball rolling. As a coach of Halo, what advice could you give to a coach who's going to be training students on how to play in a game that's brand new? With a lot of new things going on, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot that's going to be different. What advice would you give to a coach that has to push people into playing that game?
Right.
Teaching them?
Yeah. So one of my things like that, I will be approaching the game, and I guess I'm giving tips, tips and tricks or whatever. But it's very simple to me. And there's 3 steps. It's getting to know, the maps, getting to know the movement of the game. And once you get those 2 things down, and then obviously you have to put, as a coach, you need to put the time into the game. It's not something to where you can solely, or I feel like if a great coach is gonna obviously be putting a lot of time into the game so they can better articulate it to their students, and getting things down like movement in the game, getting things down, like your understanding of the maps, the competitive maps, or however, whatever those maps may be. And then 3 is being able to communicate, in game. And so, when you couple those 3 things together, very basic, broad things, but all of those things create confidence in yourself individually in game, and will better allow you to articulate that to your students. So that would be the advice that I would give. And of course, like I was saying, putting the time in, like major time, because at the end of the day, like we learn from experience.
Right. All right, Garrett, unless you have anything else, I got a bonus question, then a wrap-up question.
I thought it was interesting. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, Hoax.
Mhm.
Real fast, because you're talking about coaches and how they need to put time into the game. And what I thought was interesting is right now in the collegiate esports space, we really have like a head coach for most esports titles. Would you like to see like assistant coaches that are more focused on their individual game, as someone who's a professional, right? Because you've dedicated, the past decade to Halo. You started
Right.
competing in 09. You've been coaching since 16. You spent so much time. Would you like to see maybe colleges start to pick up assistant coaches geared towards games? And if so, how do you think Halo fits in there? And do you have like any suggestions for any colleges right now for who to pick
Right.
up as an assistant coach for Halo?
Yeah, that's a good point, or a good question. I think assistant coaches, even though me personally, I've never experienced working with a head coach, don't know if I will. On the Cloud9 side of things, it just depends on how demanding workloads are, and what kind of concepts that need our full attention, and needing another coach to come in and kind of do legwork on film, or getting certain clips for us to better articulate ideas. But I think an assistant coach would probably be very necessary, going forward, because like I said, we don't know how big Halo Infinite's going to be, and there can be the stakes are going to be higher than what we've ever experienced. We don't know how high those stakes will be. So we want to be able to fully utilize ourselves, as much as we can, which means that we may not, as a head coach, you might not be able to allocate all your attention to certain things that a coach would normally, probably focus on, and things like compiling, film, recording clips, and stuff like that. And I think that those types of concepts are, ideal for assistant coaches to kind of do more of a legwork. I know that that's kind of like, maybe being bossy, or perhaps, but it's all about being able to delegate things that you may not have all the time, and attention to, because there's just so much that we have to be on point with, in communicating to our teams and whatnot. So I mean, I'd definitely say that that's going to be a standard in the future of collegiate esports for Halo.
Right. All right. So last question from me. So look into your crystal ball. You just talked a little bit about the future. What is Cloud9's Halo's immediate future? What are your highest hopes?
I mean, highest hopes is absolute domination, and we may not know like all the specific things that align us with making that possible, because obviously we'll have new tools, and we're all going to be starting from square one. Nobody's had access to this game early, beforehand, and that's something that I love. That 343 is, they have their own pro team there, so we don't have any favoritism, and the average Joe, or up and coming players that have pro aspirations, or students, we're all starting at the same level, and that's really exciting. So, but like I said, we're looking to dominate, and we're looking to win every tournament that we enter in, and we're just going to go hard, the hardest we've ever gone.
Right, looking to dominate. There you have it. Emanuel Lovejoy, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And I'm a Cloud9 boy, so I wish the best of luck to C9, and I'm looking forward to see what's in the future.
Appreciate you guys having me.